Hey everyone, Caddy here, and today I'm going to be talking about Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, a Kickstarter bonus game from Koji Igarashi and the team Inti creates. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, this may be a finished release as it stands, but it's still a bonus game. In fact, a tiny part of a much bigger game known as Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which Koji Igarashi started a Kickstarter for after he tried to develop a brand new Castlevania title in the early 2010s for Konami, and their response was to tell him to get fucked and moved him onto the social division of Konami instead. Yes, the guy who partly directed, wrote and programmed Symphony of the Night and produced all of those DS Castlevanias was left to rot at Konami for literally no reason other than they didn't want him anymore and favoured Lords of Shadow instead. I'm immensely glad that the Kickstarter for his spiritual successor to Symphony of the Night was that successful that one of the stretch goals to create a bonus tie-in minigame was met with flying colours. And the funny thing is, I say it's a minigame, but this is a surprisingly pretty big game for as simple as it looks. I got 7 hours of playtime out of this by the time I was done with it, and I only paid like £8 for it, which when you look at the 4-hour-long Sonic Forces and how bad that is, retailing at £30, it's actually kind of disgraceful. Anyway, despite a huge lack of story here, there are still late game bosses and stages I'll be showing off, so if you want to avoid everything being ruined, leave now.
Spoilers, alright, okay, nice.
Okay, to start off with, I knew this game and the Bloodstained IP was massively Castlevania inspired, but honestly I wasn't expecting this much inspiration. And not just from the gothic 8-bit style with a bright coloured character standing out from it. In a few places, they don't just call back to classic NES Castlevania games for the sake of homaging, but actually completely reuse level designs, enemy designs, and gameplay ideas almost to the point of totally ripping it off. And that does hold the game back slightly in my opinion, but does it make it bad? Not at all. The game's great, you just need to get over the fact it's Castlevania again, but with a fresh coat of paint, new story elements, and sweet little touches to the gameplay to make it stand out against its inspiration. Plus, it's actually way more fair in design while being still fucking hard, but without being impossibly difficult for no reason like Castlevania 3. It does still follow Castlevania to a T though. You can't jump off of stairs. When you do a jump, you're committed to the whole jump arc. There's a character with a whip, a character that can turn into a bat, there's enemies that throw low and high axes and boomerang styled attacks, Medusa head wavy pattern enemies, flying creatures that drop off fast moving bouncing enemies in front and behind you, health and items hidden within secret destructible walls, alternate weapons to use with a limited magic meter. Need I say more? I even decided to go with veteran difficulty for every playthrough I did of the game, which meant limited lives and even knockback. Fucking knockback! God! And although I did feel immensely satisfied for overcoming the challenges with these implemented, I'm at least glad you have another difficulty for unlimited lives and no knockback if that's too daunting for you. But honestly, I would recommend you going with the veteran difficulty anyway, because the limited lives mean that your score actually means something. By searching for secrets, collecting items and defeating enemies, you get more points and a new life for every 20,000 points, which feels not only good but is fucking necessary for some of the challenges the game throws at you. It encourages you to brave the next corner of a branching path to reward you with more lives, and while you do this, there's a chance that you'll run into a permanent health, magic, defense, or attack increase, making exploration worth even more of a damn. And strutting around kicking back to the incredible 8-bit beats while listening to your blades slicing through the monsters with the crunchy Big Crush sound design feels fucking fantastic when you have the fast-paced enemies, management, platforming, and exploration all coming together in holy matrimony. Also, going for the easier difficulty and removing knockback may be ideal for you personally, and that's great if it is, but I can't imagine just tanking all the enemy damage without consequence aside from a small bit of health loss. Yeah, knockback is still a pain in the dick, but at least it adds tension to the platforming and makes you consider every uninterruptible action that you perform. Although there were a few times where I swear to fucking god the knockback deliberately sucked you into the nearest hole, and I was convinced that knockback happened exclusively by throwing you in the opposite direction to where you were facing no matter where you were attacked from, but look here, I'm getting knocked forward, so is it caused from the direction the enemies attack you or what? I still don't know, but it feels inconsistent and I didn't really like it. The level design itself may borrow a bit too much from the other Castlevanias in my opinion, but I never came across a part of the game I deemed bullshit or unfair, you know, aside from a couple of sections of stages under specific circumstances that can blow me, but that is to be expected with this style of game to an extent. Instead of the NES Castlevanias where stiff control was just kind of a hindrance, especially in 3, and felt like a restriction for the sake of artificial difficulty, here I felt like Curse of the Moon was built around the stiff movement, and this is clear in areas with pits reducing the enemies swarming you, and parts with stairs not leaving you totally fucking defenseless and unable to get by without taking damage. Jumps and platform distances aren't as strict or pixel perfect as Castlevania either, and if you play it safe, there's always a different method you can use to advance. I even appreciated that you could jump onto the stairs and such, and enemies don't tend to immediately respawn off screen like in Ninja Gaiden, aside from like one part right here. I'm not sure why this happens, but whatever. And boss battles don't feel like a total crapshoot with random attacks happening at moments where they're unavoidable based on the luck of your position. There's always telegraphing even for the most difficult giant area attacks, and yeah, lots of them are trial and error, but again, that's just the kind of game that this is. The bosses though were a highlight for me personally and test everything that you should have learned throughout your playtime perfectly. They're fast, they're difficult, you will die learning the many patterns of them, but once you get it, you feel like a god taking them down. They also don't tend to bombard you with constant attacks and cycle through not too many major methods of attack, which is nice around the slower and stiffer movement, but I will admit that I hated the final fuck you attack a handful of the bosses had. I can't see any reason or excuse for this shit. Luckily, none of the final attacks killed me, but it makes no sense to me why the team thought it was a good idea to have you learn a load of attacks, take the boss down from your skill, maybe leaving you with a pixel of health left, and then have the boss throw out one last, ultra fast, impossible to predict and reactive attack at you that has a high damage area of effect. This attack is the last thing to avoid before the boss dies itself, so you don't even need to hit the fucking thing. So if you got to the very end of the battle with only a smidgen of health left, only to have the game just scream fuck you after your hard work causing you to start the whole boss over, I suppose would feel shite. Like I said, it never happened to me, but I still don't get why it did this. Even on replays of the game, these attacks are totally reliant on your memory of them and nothing else really, but that's just the end of some of the bosses. It's mostly really good stuff. Another thing taken from Castlevania, specifically 3, is character swapping, but now with 3 extra characters you can swap between very quickly at will once you defeat the bosses that they were stuck inside. You don't only get alternate attack stars and magic attacks that you can swap depending on what you pick up from purple candles in stages, but you also have individual health bars for each character, meaning you can save yourself from death and starting back from a checkpoint at the last minute during a long trek. And to stop you being completely overpowered, you all share the same magic bar, and all the alternate attacks and movements require very different amounts of magic to use depending on their power, so you still need to think about what you're doing for each screen. This also ties into the exploration again, making all the candles you hit worth something, not just for your score or health and different alternate weapons, but also to fill up the magic needs shared by every character. All the characters play totally differently as well and have totally different basic attacks to shake everything up. If you want massive high damage magic attacks but low health, you pick Alfred. If you want a shotgun styled low range multi-projectile upwards attack and the only magic attack being able to turn into a bat and fly over hazards, you pick Gebel, Jebel, Jeeble, Geeble, whatever it is. If you want a character who has a very long range but slow firing whip, a very high jump and the ability to slide under obstacles, you pick Miriam. And if you want a quick but short ranged and powerful sword attack and a high health bar, stick with Zangetsu, your main character. Off subject for a second, even though this story is remarkably simple, I did really enjoy the brief dialogue moments from Zangetsu especially, and his no shit taking attitude. When he said he'd be kind enough to leave one of the other characters' heads where it was for now, I laughed out loud. Such a badass and over the top nasty thing to say. All the characters have different uses and are all very fun to mess with, and I can't say any more than that aside from that it feels fucking fantastic to give the game exactly what it's been giving you and tell it to fuck itself with specific characters who can breeze through certain challenges. With each character you can also access brand new differing routes for every stage based on their abilities, which is not only great for replayability but also forces you to think resourcefully, since if you're careless and kill one of the characters, sure, you don't lose a life until they're all dead, but you can't revive them until the rest of your party are dead, meaning you could potentially miss out on vitally important upgrades and such unless you decide to kill off everyone and start again from a few rooms back. If you decide to beat the game with all 3 extra characters in your party, Zangetsu saves all of the team against the last boss and sacrifices himself to the darkness, meaning that you unlock a new game mode allowing you to replay the earlier stages with the powerful extra characters you didn't have access to before, trying to go back and save him. And this not only opens up brand new avenues and ways to play the earlier stages, making the replay itself more interesting, but this is even assuming you keep all the partners alive in the first place. Because in one of the coolest surprises of the game, I accidentally discovered you can not only damage but kill the allies stuck inside the demons once you beat the boss if you don't trust them. Because, well, they're using the power of the demons for their own gain, that's why they're inside them. At this point, you don't get a new ally with a separate health bar, but instead absorb brand new attacks and moves to use for the rest of the game. A double jump that works wonderfully as a dodge to change your direction mid-air, a better coverage aerial slash, and a dash button. Not only another really cool way to replay the game again, but the fact that you have no separate health bars to swap with and limited alternate weapon magic makes the game way more fucking difficult if you felt it was a little bit too easy before. You even work on singular lives instead of relying on all of your party dying before losing a life, and with all those moments of knockback when one hit kills you immediately and you only have 3 tries before a game over, it's enough to make you scream. Also, by the time I got to playing the game with all the absorbed moves, this was my 3rd time replaying the game, and even though I personally feel like the replayability aspect is one of the best things about the game, I must be honest, getting through undoubtedly the hardest fucking mode in the game and getting the bad ending, where you see Zangetsu kill the final boss and then fully embrace it to become the Lord of Darkness, when I saw yet another game mode unlocked known as Ultimate Mode where Zangetsu is the Lord of Darkness, to then start the game up and realise that all that changed was a charge attack and nothing else, not even a skin swap, I thought that was kind of shit and not worth all the aggravation, honestly. I also did start to get a little tired of the visuals after all that time too. Not that they're bad, they're pretty good, but they're not particularly special in my opinion, even for an 8-bit style calling back to Castlevania. In many places they feel a bit too video gamey for lack of a better term, just loads of assets plonked and repeated and not as distinctively characterised as something like like Shovel Knight. I don't remember a lot of these places that I explored through, and to be fair, this may be because I had been through the same stages 3 times over, one after the other, but when I remember seeing the bosses for the first time with their immense level of detail, it really stuck out to me against the much more simple enemies and backgrounds in comparison. But yes, it's all still good, I just wasn't blown away, and I think I would have preferred something closer to Dracula X with a 16-bit style. There's nothing that new or exciting here, and that's pretty close to what I can say about the package as a whole. Even when Curse of the Moon isn't blatantly reusing ideas and designs from Castlevania for nostalgia's sake, it is basically just another early-era Castlevania game, but the amazing thing is how fucking fun the game is to play and how it's managed to keep this genre of platformer alive, not just from its difficulty. It's designed really damn well around the stiffer movement of the time, it has enough original ideas to keep the gameplay fresh and ripe for replaying, in my opinion it's better than even some of the Castlevanias it's replicating, and it does stand out enough with its own unique and badass character for me to say that it's a great precursor to the hopefully amazing Ritual of the Night. And I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. It's great. If it's your birthday today while watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful. Hey everybody, and thanks so much for watching this video on the prequel, I suppose, to Ritual of the Night, Curse of the Moon, and special thanks to all the people on the screen right now that have helped support this channel via Patreon, which you can do in the description below or on the end card at the end of this video, the last 20 seconds of this video. You don't have to do that, you don't have to click, you don't even have to look at the page, but it will be massively appreciated if you do. I'm never going to hold my content up to ransom, don't worry. And special thanks to all the top tier supporters, Omar Matu, Basil, Patrick Ferguson, Robert Alamsha, I Have a Portal Gun, Gamer Man, William Sanborn, Jezebel, Matthew Hubble, Chumbawamba, Cyberpunk Symphony, Starry Relansjay, Zakari, Binary Code, Exopaz, Thomas Olsen, Mills Kahai, Daniel Leon, Jane Ives, Mitchell Reed, A.D. Thornton Smith, Oblivion Rising, Ellen Rilpley, Kirsten B, QB, Nathan Young, and Nicole Ganara. Thank you so much, every single one of you.